Food for thought. I was very excited when I received a FedEx package on Thursday morning. It contained the front cover of my very first book, a book which was scheduled to be released in bookstores in July. Something I never thought that I could ever accomplish with only a sixth grade education. I immediately telephoned my wife while driving to the pizza parlor where she was working. I was very happy that day, and I wanted to eat lunch with her and share that happiness with my wife. When I arrived, I sat down in one of the far back booths with my clear, bubbly, caffeine-free Sprite, and I waited for her to finish the few tables she had left. I sat looking out the large plate glass window, and I saw a man about 20 years old walking across the parking lot. He was carrying a one-slice pizza box that he had just purchased from one of the little mini-marts across the street. He walked into the restaurant, washed his hands in the bathroom, and then he went directly to the counter where he ordered a large cup of water. Then he walked to the back of the restaurant where I was sitting, and he sat down at one of the tables across from me. He laid his dirty paper sack of clothing down on the floor, and he tried to straighten out the wrinkles so that it didn't look so bad. Then he looked and he smiled at me. When he finished, he took a napkin from the metal container, and he placed it on the table, and he neatly laid down his silverware. He placed the fork to the right side of the napkin, and the spoon and knife to the other side. There was no doubt that this man was homeless and in need of a bath. He had not shaved for many months. His hair was extremely greasy, as was his skin and beard, and his clothing would have caught fire from the stench had someone lit a match. He reached over, slid the one slice of pizza out of the box, and he laid it on the napkin. Very slowly and very carefully, he began to eat the small meal, taking little bites. I sat there watching him out of the corner of my eye. I wondered how someone could buy a slice of pizza from one store and then have the nerve to bring it into another restaurant, especially one that serves pizza, and then sit down and eat it. That puzzled me so much that I just sat there for the longest time trying to figure it out. But for some reason, my mind would not let me think about that. The more I tried to figure it out, the more my mind kept running around in a never-ending circle of thought. For some reason, it was as if my mind was refusing to allow me to think about that kind of thing. The dingy fellow finished his meal, and then he did something that I will never forget. He picked up the box, turned it out into its corner, and slid the few remaining crumbs into one far corner of the box. Then he wet his index finger and began to pick up the small crumbs left in the corner. I could see his eyes roll back in their sockets as he closed his eyes and bent his head backwards, trying to enjoy the few tasty crumbs that remained. The muscles in my neck and my jaw began to tighten. My eyes began to burn and water when I saw him do that. Oh, how much it hurt me to look across the dining room and once again see myself as I was 40-something years ago. That was a time in my life when I was cold and hungry and all alone. It was a time when I had no choice but to be dirty and dingy, and to not be who I really was. I had been raised in a Jacksonville, Florida orphanage, and I had no family or friends to help me. I had no one to love me, no one who cared if I lived or died. I had no place to wash my filthy clothes, which had become hard and coarse and rough against my skin. I had no warm place to sleep and no place on this earth to be safe. God knows how much it hurt to see myself again at 13 or 14 years of age. He tilted that small box to the side just as I had done many times when I lived on the street. I ate every day from garbage cans and dumpsters and bathed in gas station washrooms. I will never forget what that extra special moment felt like to make sure that I savored every single crumb, every little morsel of food, even if it was from a garbage can. I knew that I could sustain my life for at least one more lonely day on this earth. My wife finally came and sat down across from me. I immediately turned my head to the side, got up from the booth, and I walked to the server station. I put my plastic tray into the cart and I wiped my eyes so that she would not see the tears. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know what to say. I felt so lost and so helpless. I didn't even know how to act because I'd never been where I was now. Most of my past life had been just like what I was now seeing in front of my very own eyes. My past was identical to that of the young man who sat right in front of me. My past life on the streets came back to me in a flash, and it hurt deeply. I grunted and I coughed, trying to clear my throat and get myself back together. Just then, my wife stood behind me and said, "Roger, go get that gentleman some pizza and some dessert." I didn't say a word, but I walked directly to the counter and got 4 slices of pizza, as well as some slices of dessert. I walked back to the man, set the pizza down on the corner of the table in front of him, and I said, "We'll be throwing this away very shortly. I thought you might like to have a few slices." He never even looked up. He looked directly down at the table. I didn't stop. I walked around behind him, and as I passed him, I reached out and I touched him on the back very softly with my hand, just as I wish someone would have done for me 30-something years ago. I hope that man knows that somewhere cares about him as a human being. I don't know for sure what all those beatings did to me in that orphanage or reform school. However, I'm so thankful that this worthless little orphan kid, though he succeeded in life, never forgot what it feels like to be down, out, dirty, and hungry. Moreover, I am so thankful that I grew up to be a man who will forever carry a tear in his heart for his fellow man.